You guys, where do you work? Good. I've got about 20 years in emergency services. Spent the first part of it as a firefighter, moved up to chief. Finally made my way over to EMS and somehow found my way into a hospital. Very strange that I'm here, but I'm glad to be here. What we have done is we've sort of started a program that we want to create a better educational experience for you, a better work experience. When you come to Grady, you're going to deal with a lot of different people. Okay? When I say that, the population is just different. All right? But everybody that comes through those doors deserves the best treatment they can get. And before they even make it to those doors, you're our first point of contact in the patient care team. All right? And that's what we call you as a patient care team. And a good EMT makes a really good paramedic. All right? Bad EMT can make a really good paramedic really bad. I shared with the class yesterday that in my experience, I had an EMT that I begged him to work with me all the time. That's the only person that I wanted to work with. It was a good team. When I didn't have them, everything was off. All right? And there are little things that you can do to make your job better. There are a lot of things you can do to make a paramedic's job better. But ultimately, what we want to do is improve patient outcomes. All right? Every patient that we go to, whether you saw them 6 days previous, 2 days previous, every day for the past 2 months, which you're going to run into those. They deserve the same care every time. You've got one particular person that comes to Grady, I don't know, twice a day, 3 times a day, sometimes, at least every day. And he is a ground level fall on blood thinners every day. We cannot confirm if he takes his blood thinners, we do not know. However, every time he comes to Grady, he has to be leveled because of his age and blood thinners, right? 2 weeks he comes in, and here we go. We got John Doe coming again. Everybody rolls their eyes and says, once again. I broke his neck this time. So every time that you touch a patient, consider that the first time you touch a patient, because their condition could have changed since yesterday, 2 hours ago, or since last year when we saw them. All right? Now, I'm only telling you these little things because you're going to find people that come into the hospital, they're going to expect a certain level of care. As students, you're going to get to touch a lot of people. I learned yesterday how many sets of vitals that you're supposed to take. How many is that? 50. That's what the class yesterday said. So I promise you, in 1 day, you get all the touches you want. 2 days, you get more than you want. 3 days, you're ready to get on the call. How long have you been in the fire service? Okay. All right. So you're newish. It's still fun hanging out. It stays fun if you do the right stuff. But, there are also some things that your midnight runs for Sally Mae that you don't really want to deal with. You should deal with it the same way. All right. My biggest advice when you come to Grady: be nice. That might be talking to. Be nice. Be nice to your patient. Be nice to your coworkers. The team spirit. Be busy. All right. We're going to go through some of these things. One thing that I want to, or the thing we really want to focus on as we go through this is sort of your progression through our zones. I'm going to give you a basic map. When you come the first day, I want to meet you. And if I can't meet you, I'm going to try to have somebody else meet you. Okay? I can't be there every morning at 7 o'clock. Unfortunately, you'll have a lot of students, and I just simply cannot meet everybody every day. All right? At the end of this presentation, though, I'll give you my contact information. And when you have a question, text me, call me. If you have a problem, whatever it may be, you can call me. I will try to answer. If I can't, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay? All right, I'm a resource for you. All right? I am in a lot of things in the hospital. I sort of know what's going on around there, and I know what you're about to experience. Who's nervous about their first ER visits? Yeah? What makes you nervous? Talk to me. What makes you nervous?
Just not having any of the experience yet. I feel like I'm not quite sure what I'm getting myself into yet. So,
okay.
I mean, I'm definitely like excited at the same time. It's like nervous butterflies.
Okay,
but
nervous excitement. About you?
Yeah. Forgetting everything on spot. Just getting nervous. Oh, lifting patients, yeah, definitely.
So the forgetting everything, that will not change, trust me. As a paramedic, you can go in with a full algorithm. I mean, just a simple code. When I say a simple code, it's a simple thing. It's like, I guess I should be pumping on this person's chest first, right? So, You're going to have some of those nerves. People who've been in the emergency services before, you know how to talk to people. You know that they're going to try to take advantage of you. All right, they're going to try to get more out of you. Some of them will come and ask for extra sandwiches, extra blankets, those kind of things. Lifting patients, that is a very good skill to learn. How many patients do you get called for lift assist? And how hard is it to move a human being when they do not want to help? A fit human being, hard. An unfit human being, or an obese patient who doesn't have control of their legs, that's a whole nother game. And when you have to move somebody carefully from a wheelchair to a stretcher, it's different, right? So, without further ado, we're going to get into the presentation a little bit. She saw my presentation yesterday. My presentations change day to day because we learned from our class yesterday. So I'm going to try to add some things that I learned from the class yesterday, and hopefully you'll be able to give me some feedback so that I can feed into the next people coming around. That's what we should all be doing every day, right? Every call. We call it the Pre-Hospital Orientation Program, POP. We have an IHOP coming whenever our nurse, that was her name, she came up with that, but that's the In-Hospital Orientation Program. And what we've done in the past is not done a very good job of putting EMS together with the hospital. It has been ambulance drivers, it has been granny toters, bringing them to the masters, right? Definitive care, physicians and nurses, especially nurses. All right? Make no mistake about it, you have many superpowers that they do not have. You learn many things that they cannot do the same way that medic or an EMT can do, right? Doorway assessment, touching your patient, being the first person to touch your patient, getting a good story. When you walk into these houses and you see pill bottles everywhere, or you see Coke cans everywhere, and you've got a diabetic emergency, you know, you start thinking like, hey, sort of put that together. Nurses, you know what they see? They're sick patient. They need that story, all right? And we'll talk about the story in a few minutes. We'll talk about how to give that story and how to be brief, but to give them the meat and potatoes of what you need to know. So I've already told you who I am. I also serve as a communications manager for the ECC and the MTC, and I'll explain some of these acronyms in a minute. As a communications manager, every time that you come to Grady Hospital, you speak to somebody of my staff in the communications office, give a radio report. All right? I'm going to tell you this is moving ahead when you're on the ambulance. But if you have issues or concerns, feel free to share those. All right? We're making that better. The reason that we want to make that communication process better is the quicker that we get our patient from the ambulance to definitive care, better off we are. So we need the complete story. So work on your reports. Work on how you do that, okay? So the purpose of the POP is to provide information concerning your upcoming clinical rotations at Grady. It's a big place. You get lost. It's not just a matter of, we're not here to hold the hammer down on anybody. It's a safety issue as well. We need to know where you are. We need to know what you're doing. We need to know who you're assigned to. Because, I mean, you saw the news a few weeks ago. We had a shooting right outside of Grady. Yeah, well, it is normal, but that's an active shooter situation, and so that puts our staff in danger. Okay? You come to our hospital and you work inside of our hospital, you're part of our team, you're part of our staff. Okay? Even though you have Grady shirts on, the Grady EMS shirts on, you're still part of our team, and we're responsible for it. So that's why this is important to know we need to know where you are and what you're doing. And we'll talk a little more about being busy in a few minutes. We want to make sure that you have a meaningful learning experience. I've done all the chronicles. I've done all the time. What is it for medics now? It's like 6 or something. That's on site. When you get into, I think I counted up 1,200 hours at one time. That's about what I did. That's a lot of free time. All right. I know that there's probably 300 of those hours that I stood around with my hands in my pockets trying to figure out. We don't want that. Okay. Y'all's clinicals are 3 days. It's a lot quicker. You have a lot more patience to put your hands in. It's going to be okay. I like it. It's going to be fun. Go by quick. So let's talk about what these places are. ECC, MTC, CPR, triage, PCC. There's all kinds of different things. The ones you really need to be focused on, ECC, Emergency Care Center. All right? That is ED in most hospitals. We call it Emergency Care Center. Because it's not just a Marcus Trauma Center, one of a kind, very busy, but they do not deal with really sick patients. Those are going to go to the ECC. Your trauma patient is going to go to the Marcus Trauma now. That does not mean that they're not injured. The ones that have bones sticking out of them in all kinds of weird places that you wouldn't expect. These are the traumatic arrest, car wrecks, gunshots, stabs, assaults, ground level falls. Doesn't matter. They're going to Marcus Trauma. You'll have limited time in there. And so one very important thing that I want to tell you about it before we get around to it in this presentation, when you're in the Marcus Trauma Center, you're a fly on the wall. Hands in pockets. Don't touch a stethoscope. Don't touch the bed. Don't touch a sheet. Unless you're directly told by somebody, please do not touch anything. Everything is closely tracked, recorded, and we do not want you in any kind of hot water for touching a patient that you shouldn't be touching. Okay? Even if they ask you, if they tell you, that's fine. Just make sure you remember who told you to touch that patient. All right, that's very important. CPR rooms. All right, have all been through CPR? Who's pumped on the chest before? Not very many of you. I know the firemen have first aid, right? If you haven't pumped on the chest before, go get it. All right, don't be nervous. you had that look like I don't know. So the CPR rooms are where critically ill medical patients go, not our trauma patients, just our medical patients. That could be stroke, it could be sepsis, renal failure, it could be anything, okay? When you're in the rotation to go into the CPR rooms, you're going to have more than one person on clinicals at the same time, okay? Only one student in the room at a time. If you've already done your CPR, hand it off to somebody else. Let them know, hey, you're next. You hear another one come in. Oddly, you would think that we get cardiac arrest in there every other hour. We do not. We do not. We get a lot, but it's not every other hour. So when you hear it, you need to go. If you're on, that's in your daily rotation, you need to go and get it. You're going to have that. On your neuro patients, follow them to CT. On your septic patients, try to talk to the nurse and figure out what all the labs are, why they're septic. Usually it's going to be renal, it's going to be kidney failure, or something like that. A lot of things come to Grady, and our very sick patients go to CPR rooms. I'll show you where they are on the map in a moment. Triage is where our EMS comes in and they talk to our nurses. It may also be where our waiting room folks, we have 4 triage rooms in the front from the waiting room, and then we have 2 bays where we've got 4 potential nurses in ambulance triage. Okay. We'll share something about ambulance triage. This is after you get your numbers, after you're on the truck, when you're riding. When you go to ambulance triage, taking vitals is not your responsibility. It is a courtesy. That is the best way that you create a good relationship with those nurses. They're going to get you where you need to be, get your patient offloaded. Make nice. That's the best way I can put it. Be nice. Again, it comes up with that teamwork, understanding the objective. Now, some nurses are going to expect you to do it. All right? It's not really your job. But just be nice about it. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm asking you to be judicious. And if you say, hey, I can create a better relationship with this hospital by doing it, it's a nice thing to do. Grady has about 150 ambulances come through its doors every day. So those triage nurses are tired, especially around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. All right. So, moving on. Normal day at Grady. First thing you're going to do is huddle. I will try to meet you first thing in the morning at the entrance. I'll show you where it is, and then I'll escort you to the auditorium. Remember the auditorium or the word huddle. First thing you do when you get there, what time will your clinical start? How you going?
I think it's at 7, right?
There you go.
7.
So shift starts at 7 o'clock. The huddle is at 7 o'clock. Okay. So what time should we be there?
6:30.
There you go. Not early? Okay, good. We're on the same page. I feel it. Same thing as fire department. Show up a little bit early, have a cup of coffee, right?
which is a little more critical patients. And then day 3 is CPR and Marcus trauma. You're going to be floating a little bit because you'll understand the flow of things. But the reason that we're doing this is so you understand what the flow is and where our critical patients are versus where our more stable or in and out patients are, okay? Like I say, I'll try to meet you on day 1 of your clinical rotation. If I'm not there, I'll try to have somebody else there for you. If not, you do need to get in touch with the flow coordinator and say, hey, I'm here for my clinicals, who will help? And we'll have you assigned. Tell them it's day 1 and you're supposed to go to 1 or X. Day 2 is on 2. Day 3 CPR and Marcus trauma. Okay? That means you're going to be right there the whole day, but that is where you should stay for the most part. As far as breaks go, this is a safety issue, and it's also an issue to make sure that we're staying on task with the things we need to do. Take breaks with your nurses.